Okay, so let's keep on building our curve network.
All right.
Now, I did notice at the end of the last video that I was losing a little bit of continuity with some of these curves. These should be straightened out a little bit more than they are. So I'm going to take just a few seconds and grab CVs on these curves and clean things up a little bit. Say over here, grab all 4 of these. Grab their NCVs and just kind of straighten that out. Okay. And let's grab the CV curve tool again and start working on the fender. And adjust in the front view a bit. Take a look up here at the front of the car. We have this kind of lip that goes up underneath, and down here on the edge. Let's go ahead and see if we can create that.
So right around the grill?
Yeah. And we're going to use the arrow keys and pick walk along the curve. In fact, let me double check here. It looks like I grabbed 2 CVs when I didn't really mean to. And let's just kind of double check on the image. We can see this area here, and it kind of slopes up there at the edge, so we'll leave that kind of pointed downward just a bit. And this is the second to the last CV, so what I'm going to do is make sure that it stays aligned with the first one in the Z-axis, so it'll stay nice and flat along there. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of rounding this out based on sort of a best guess, if you will. Go into the top view, follow the flow of the curvature of the car, and just kind of make it look nice, is what that kind of amounts to. All right, let's go back to the front view. Could probably tug this out just a little bit further. These can go up just a bit. Create another curve like so.
Now, what line are you following? I don't see...
There really kind of isn't one. But check it out. There's a little bit of thickness here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That I just want to kind of get in place. So I'm just creating sort of a guideline. As I was saying, there's kind of a difference between lines that you'll actually see on the model and then lines you're going to use for contour purposes. So this is just giving me something to base things on as I step inside. Like, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this all the way back a little bit behind that lip. You see, it's just a way for me to kind of keep track of the contour of the car.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Kind of giving it a thickness.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's see. Up here along the front, we kind of curve outward. Now, this is sort of an interesting area. I'm going to snap right up here to the front edge of the kind of the bumper, if you will, if you could even call that a bumper. And we're just going to follow this right around the side of the car. I'm going to go ahead and put an extra point or 2 right here so I get kind of a corner right here in this area. Do the same thing here, just drop an extra point down. And actually, that's just about as far as I need the thing to go. I can probably take this CV and delete it out. Okay. Now let me take this curve, press Insert, Move its pivot over. I'm going to hit Control D and duplicate it. Notice I curve snap its pivot here to the to the base.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll snap this down like so. So now I have kind of a duplicate of that curve to get the bottom area of the bumper. All right, now from here, this little kind of grill area in the middle of the car is so simple that I'm not really going to stress creating a curve network for it. We can probably improv that later on and get it dead on. So we won't worry about that too much. Although, it does look like I need to kind of address the bumper and the underside of the car from here. Let's go over to our side view. And it looks like we have a bit of a downward sweep. Uh-oh, look at this. If you ever see this happen, it's probably because your duplicate settings were set to something like instance.
Uh-huh.
Let me go ahead and delete out that curve that I duplicated. Go over to our duplicate settings, and we are set to instance. So let me reset everything.
Forgot to reset your tools.
Yeah, it happens. So I'll take this one, and I'll shape this. Notice we're just kind of following the curvature here.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll duplicate, pull down, and this one will follow downward. So a little bit of a difference there in our relative heights. So what I'll do is start kind of averaging out between the two. Notice I'm just grabbing selections and tugging them up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing all that fancy, really. And this bottom one we can, of course, pull in a bit. See how this lines up. Looks okay in the front view. Looks pretty good in the side view. But we are, again, just kind of averaging in between the two.
Right.
So let's check things out in the 3D view. And that's not too bad. Actually, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll grab this bottom curve. Let me center its pivot so I can move it, and we'll tug it up. Now, the ends of your curves don't necessarily have to snap together. Just because later on, once we create polygons, that issue will pretty much take care of itself. All right, over here in the side view, let's create a cutout for the wheel well. Now notice I'm creating this with as few points as possible. And because of that, the curve is a lot smaller than what we really need, but that's okay. Because what we can do now, of course, is just adjust those CVs and make it all line up. Okay. Now we have an edge that, according to the image, goes from right underneath the little black area under the headlight and cuts right back to here. So let's go ahead and get that in place. The way I'm going to do this is to create a NURBS curve with the EP curve tool. We'll curve snap it here to the bottom, and then I'll just curve snap it straight back like so. In fact, hang on. Before I jump the gun, I should probably edit the wheel well a little bit. Totally.
I think it's in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it might be.
Makes for an interesting car, though.
Yeah, so let's center its pivot. We'll move it out here. Now, we don't have a whole lot of reference as to where this is supposed to go, so we have to kind of, wing it a little bit. So we can grab this vertex, pull it in like so, and now I'm just going to pick walk up the curve and just follow that curvature. also kind of hugs in a little bit at the bottom, which is just what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking pretty good up there in the corner. All right. And now let's get that kind of fender separation line in there. Looks like that line might be just a little bit off on the drawing, which is okay, because we're referencing what's really there. Okay, looking good so far. Let's come over here to the side view and continue working on the fender. Now, the car is going to be broken up into a lot of pieces. Looks like we've got a contour line here.
Right.
That shows where the fender kind of flattens out, as opposed to actually, having a separate crease there. Let's see if I can kind of demonstrate this. Here you go. And you can see how the fender kind of gets flat there. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this curve. I'm going to scale it out. I'm going to grab curve points here and here, holding down the Shift key. And then under Edit Curves, we'll come down to Detach Curves. And we just take our excess and delete it. All right. Now I'm going to grab the CV Curve tool again, and we'll snap all the way to the end of this fender curve that I created earlier, and let's start creating the curvature that wraps around the bottom of the fender. Or the back of the fender, anyways. Like so. Now, of course, we need to kind of clean this up in the front view. So this is one of those places where you're going to have to kind of eyeball it, see where things are placed. I think I'll take this last CV and tuck it in just a little bit more. But now we do have the bulk of the main fender at the front here outlined, as well as all these areas in here. It's starting to look pretty nice.
Yeah.
A little bit of editing up here. I'll go ahead and pull this back up against the wheel well. All right. Now we have sort of an interesting shape as we get here along the base of the car, down here around the side skirt. And if we grab our big image, we can kind of see why it looks so interesting on the picture. And it's because we have this kind of thing here chopped out like so.
Right.
So let's go ahead and grab our CV curve tool. And I'll start off just by making a split. Now notice I'm going to stop this right here underneath the door.
Right.
You have an option. You can either stop right here under the door, or you can pull back and keep everything in line, but it'll probably be easier later on if you chop right here. You don't have to. It's just kind of a thought. All right. Now we need to kind of outline this shape. First, let's make sure that line we just created is kind of in the right spot. If we look in the top view, notice how it just kind of shoots straight back. It doesn't really follow the contour of the car at all. Also, notice how we've broken away from some of our contouring here. So we need to kind of clean this up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This all boils down to checking all of your different image planes. pull all these inside. Grab multiple curves at once and start tugging these in a bit. See how that's starting to look over here. It's pretty nice. Snap this back to the curve like so, and then we'll come up here to the top view, and then I'll just start pushing these in the x-axis so that they line up with the door. Now notice I'm ignoring this little area out here because that's actually the wind scoop on the side of the car. Move this just a little bit. Follow that curvature as best we can. Come up here and create a curve along the top of the door. And of course, take a moment, edit this out. Now, what line am I following? There's kind of a ridge that flows along the top of the door there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just kind of moving along that, because from the side, all you'd be able to see is the top of that ridge. The door itself actually is going to indent downward slightly as it goes down to the window. So we're just kind of following the outward edge for the time being. Let's go ahead and create a couple of curves to outline the windshield while we're here. So I'll snap it here to the base of the windshield. Now hold down Shift to create my second point. And that's just going to make sure these 2 points stay parallel, which will keep my curve nice and flat. Let's see, 4 points will probably do it just fine. I guess we really just need to kind of clean this up in the top view, and it should be okay. About like so. Okay. And we'll snap to the end of this curve. And we'll go up the blind spot here. Go ahead and stop when I get to the top of the windshield. And we'll snap up here. I'll just create another curve that goes along the roof line. And of course, that's going to need some cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Take this second CV. Let's just snap it in Y right up to its next door neighbor, and then we can just kind of position this one arbitrarily almost. Now, we did notice earlier on that there is a little bit of a difference between the line here and the line here on top.
Right.
So I'm going to assume that the top is correct.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's coming along nicely. And I'll curve snap a new curve in here. We'll follow the underside of the blind spot. Like so. Okay. And clean this up a bit here in the top view. And let's go ahead and just kind of see where things are. That's looking pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully you'll be able to see what we're getting at now.
Yeah, I'm sure by now it's kind of starting to make sense, because this is already looking like a line drawing of a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So this will be a nice basis from which we can create our model later on. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, and we'll continue this in the next video.